And you open the door and you step inside. We're inside our hearts. Now imagine your pain is a white ball of healing light. That's right, your pain, the pain itself, is a white ball of healing light.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is another episode of Film Seizure. I'm Jason Oliver.
And I am Jackson Flame Sense of Rejection. I'm Jeff Arbuckle.
Today we have for you, as promised, 1999.
Yep, 99.
Fight Club.
Fight Club.
And the episode is over because we can't talk
about it. We cannot talk about Fight Club.
So
great
see
episode,
you next week.
Jeff. Yep. Yeah. Pat yourself on the back. We did it.
Nailed it.
Boom. Knocked that shit out of the park. So this movie kind of is part two of our three-part little mini theme that I kind of came up with here of movies that aren't made like this anymore.
Just making up themes.
I am. Well, last week we had a fantasy movie, an Excalibur, that they just don't make movies like that. They always have to try to update it or some horseshit.
Yeah. Make it all weird and action-y.
Yeah, like
or hip and cool.
Yeah, God, yes. make actors say things that the people of that time wouldn't say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the movie that we didn't talk about it last week, but the movie that probably started that bullshit was Knight's Tale.
Fuck that movie.
Remember that movie?
Get that movie the fuck out of here. I hated that movie. I fucking hate that movie. I'm sorry, people, but just because Heath Ledger's in it doesn't make it a good movie.
No.
Actually, most of the time it made it a bad movie.
When they like start singing "We Will Rock You," I wanted to murder that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I actually let out audible groans. I was working at the movie theater at the time.
I was working at the theater too, I think.
And no, not in 2001, were you?
Oh, I guess I wasn't.
Yeah, no, I was at AMC.
I thought that was earlier.
And I remember watching like everybody, let's watch a free movie tonight. It's like, okay, fine. Knight's Tale. I knew from the trailers something wasn't right.
It was 10 Things I Hate About You that I was working at a theater.
I didn't like that movie either.
I liked that movie.
I don't like that movie. And anyway, it's like they started like playing these current songs, and I just like, ugh. I was that guy in that one. Yeah. This movie blows.
So 1999 was a fucking amazing year for movies.
Yes, it was. I mean, Star Wars Episode 1, everybody. Jar Jar Binks in the house. Matrix. I mean.
Yeah.
And I like The Mummy.
Yeah, I saw Fight Club in the theater.
I did too.
And I saw it I watched 3 movies in a row in the theater that day. And it was one hell of a day of movies. First, I saw Three Kings.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Really cool movie.
Yeah.
David O. Russell. Then I saw Fight Club. And then I saw American Beauty.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. All 3 of those movies were out in theaters at the same time. All very, very good.
David O. Russell, supposedly an asshole.
Yeah.
This movie's about terrorists. And then you have Kevin Spacey. Boy, you really hit the triumvirate, didn't
right?
you?
Yeah. And weirdly, they're all sort of, at least Fight Club and American Beauty, I think, have a lot of overlapping themes.
Yes. And that's, when I think about Fight Club, I don't think about the stuff that we're going to inevitably talk about.
Yeah.
I think about the allegory that this movie, I think, represents, which is our generation was stuck in a really, really bad place at one point in time with very little pointing us in the right direction. We didn't have a sense of, we didn't have a war. We didn't have a depression. We didn't have anything to lift ourselves out of or to fight for anything. All that had been done before us, and
right.
And, we were being told to go get a fucking boring ass job, and we wallowed in it,
Yeah.
Either you were a slacker or you were driving yourself insane.
This is definitely like the Generation X angst.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yeah, and we've got lots to talk about as far as like why this movie could never be made post 9/11.
Right. I mean, 2 years later, all that shit you just mentioned happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
the world changed forever.
Right. And there are people who are, who don't understand what the difference. Like, we were all adults on 9/11. We understood that. Oh boy, the world's different. 9/12, the world was different.
Yep.
And there were people who weren't yet adults who will never understand how different that. And some people may say the last election, it's like that's nowhere near what 9/11 was. And I'm sure there were people who say the world wasn't the same after Pearl Harbor or something.
Sure.
You know, yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. I mean, yeah. But anyway, we'll get through that here in just a minute. But so this is part 2. This is of the 3 movies that are in my little made up theme.
I have no idea what the third movie is. What are we watching?
We'll talk about
All right.
it. We'll talk about that.
I don't remember what we're watching next.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Rule number 1 of Jeff's
Don't
movie,
talk about just made up movie themes.
Yes. Yeah, the Tyler Durden of
Just
my
don't worry
own
about
Tyler Durden made up this.
Everything is under control, sir.
Exactly. Exactly. I went to a bunch of different cities.
Did you just Leto me? You just Jared Leto'd me.
Yeah. That would have been a lot weirder than that if I had. So no, this one is absolutely the one I think cannot be made the way that it was, with the attitude that it was, and be considered anything but very problematic for certain groups of people in this country.
Oh, sure.
Excalibur you can make. It won't make any money. You can make. Our next one, which we'll get to, you can make, but it's not going to be a wide release. But anyway. So you are a book reader.
Yes.
I am not.
Yes.
Did you? Yes, that's true. I am not. I'm not completely devoid of literature. I just seek pictures. So you read Fight Club,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
I want to know more about. Okay, so
This is going to be hard to answer. I mean,
Okay.
it's been a decade or more since I've read the book.
well, I assume that the book is still very much the anti-establishment
Yes.
kind of what would have probably been considered something that like Kesey or Kerouac would have written in the 60s. This would have probably fit the 90s generation.
Yeah.
Where, like the finding your place, rebelling against. Yeah.
The movie, from what I remember, is like 85% in the book. Like it's a pretty fair
the thing is,
adaptation.
I should have pulled up Cinefix's What's the Difference on this one, and
I feel like
we should have watched that.
I feel like there was a different ending in the book, but I can't remember what the hell it was.
No, but I was mostly curious because the dialogue, the narration, the character motivations from everybody feels like you're reading a character in a book where you're seeing more of a character than you typically would. You know what I mean? Like it's not just that you're hearing Tyler Durden say things that are interesting. You're literally reading top to bottom his manifesto, basically. Mm-hmm. So I guess the way, there are going to be spoilers. If you haven't seen Fight Club and you're
just go
interested,
Go see
you
it.
probably need to see
Don't
it.
listen to this episode. Watch the movie.
But then come back.
But then come back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, what are you doing?
Well,
man?
yeah. I mean, that's obvious, right?
I don't know.
Don't listen to us ever.
Yeah, exactly. No. So yeah, just be warned if you hadn't seen Fight Club or you don't know what the twist is. It's something that it is very, very. This was also a year of twists, right? Because Sixth Sense came out in '99.
Yes.
This was a time when studios were taking chances on these types of weirdo movies and stuff like that. But okay, so you have Ed Norton, who plays, what is his name?
Um,
Narrator. It's just listed as narrator.
but isn't he Jack?
Well, that's the book that he's reading about Jack's medulla oblongata.
Oh, right.
No, in the credits, it's just narrator.
Huh, interesting.
So he is bored with his life. He's got a 9-to-5 desk job, but he also travels a lot because he works for a car company, and he basically is he calculates whether or not a car company needs to do a recall. And there's one scene that's hilarious where he's talking to somebody on the plane on one of his trips about like how they calculate whether or not they need to do a recall.
Yeah. Yep.
And basically, like he basically lays it out that there's an alarming number of times where really they should have done a recall, but the math didn't add up, so they didn't. And the lady is just staring back at it and is like, "What car company do you work for?" A major one. that it's weird. There's a few things in this movie that I always think about in certain situations, and that is one of them. That calculation, that recall calculation, is like stuck with me. I mean, I have no reason to believe that that's not true.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Because a recall is very costly for a car company,
and it makes me think too of the of basically like a lawsuit. When a major corporation, it's like, what do we do? Do we fight this to show that we're not going to be bullied and with frivolous lawsuits or whatever that might be, or do we just settle it? Like and usually they go with whatever's cheaper to settle. Yeah, so they'll just settle. Yeah,
right.
So I always think about that too.
Right.
You know, it's like that's sort of the other side of the coin.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, he is an insomniac.
Yep.
And he talks a lot about never really being asleep or being awake, and you see him basically just kind of sleepwalking through life. And he discovered that if he started going to self-help groups of all of these crazy, like disease, not crazy, but like extreme diseases that people need, group help with, that if he was to open up and actually cry, he can sleep. Now, there is also an interesting thing where he goes to see his doctor, and the doctor's like, "No, you're not going to die from insomnia, and no, I'm not going to prescribe you anything. You need good natural sleep.
Choose some root, like tarmac root or something."
Yeah, it's like no doctor would tell you. It'd be like
it's total horseshit. Yeah,
yeah, a doctor would immediately assign you something, at least temporarily, for you to get sleep.
You get some Ambien or something, and probably
at least temporarily,
and probably be referred to a psychologist or something.
Exactly. I just mentioned to my doctor that I didn't feel like I was getting a good night's sleep, and I got like a low dose of Ambien that I took for several years until I decided I didn't need it anymore. And he was like, "Yep, you probably don't need it anymore." And it's like, that was one of the easiest things ever to get.
That's good doctoring.
Yeah, exactly. It's a doctor who every time I saw him for like 7 years, first thing he asked, "How you sleeping?"
Yeah.
Or you still feeling refreshed.
Right.
That's doctoring.
That's doctoring.
But also keep in mind that this is during a time where people are cynical in the world. Like the late 90s, you could have gotten a lot of people who might have just said, "No, I'm not giving you something. You just need to go to sleep, you idiot."
I don't think that's even necessarily cynical. Because I think in the mid to late 90s, we were less cynical.
Well,
I think that post 9/11, we became more hardened.
Yeah, and maybe cynical is not the right word, but it's
because the 90s were in a lot of ways an economic boom. People were living fat.
Yeah,
but our generation, coming up, Generation X and Y, we're definitely feeling the demands of the baby boomer generation. Like, hey,
sure,
it's all about, we got to keep this going, right?
Right.
We got when in reality we find out that they essentially sold our future for their present. But anyway.
And then we did it to the millennials too.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, we were kind of in.
We didn't really give much of a chance.
No. Anyway, we've got political stuff to talk about here in a minute. Don't worry. But anyway, I guess what I mean was that maybe the bedside manner would have been one of drugs aren't going to do what nature will do best.
Fair enough. It's
an ignorance to.
It's a more of a get with the program. you don't need drugs to
pull yourself up by your
right. Yeah.
straps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, that's
exactly right.
That's the tone from the previous generation that we kind of had to deal with a little bit. Because I had doctors who I would tell them, like when I was a teenager, it's like, I don't think I'm dealing with emotions properly, and they were just like, whatever, try this.
Yeah.
Like wouldn't even ask questions.
Get some more exercise
or whatever. Yeah, it's like you just need to push through it. You know.
Right. Terrible.
Buckle up, Buttercup, because life's gonna suck. You know, and it's like, yeah.
That scene too. Like he looks fucking terrible.
Yeah. He's got like
physically suffering,
and he's not
and
put
he
together
says
at
that
all.
He's suffering,
right?
And his doctor's like,
yeah. Well, it almost seems like it's like one of those things where it's like, if for whatever reason you went to a doctor that also worked at a hospital, not at a private practice, but somebody who's overwhelmed, they wouldn't do all that they could for the patient just coming in for they can't sleep. You know, it's like somebody who needs their leg amputated, they might do something about, but you can't sleep, fuck off.
Yeah.
You're not this guy over here who came in with a heart attack or whatever. You know what I mean? Like it seems like that kind of attitude.
Fair.
That like
you're at the last priority.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're at an you're at a doctor who has too many patients that can't keep up.
Yep.
So anyway, that's not even important at all,
not
really,
at all.
in the long run. But anyway, at his breaking point, he meets a guy named Tyler Durden, who is Brad Pitt,
who has already been introduced to us several times.
But the first time you see it, you're not going to notice it that much. It's but he's Tyler Durden's kind of the cool guy, right? Like he would be somebody that everybody would want to be, particularly in 1999 with some of the clothes that he was wearing.
Oh my God,
he's so douchey.
It's douchey and eccentric.
And oh God, eccentric. He's eccentric.
His different sunglasses and his jackets
and his
like
fucking mesh shirts.
Yeah, the hustler mesh shirt is the best one.
Yeah.
That of all of his outfits, that's the one.
Oh, I don't know. He had that feathery
that
fur
to
coat.
Me is the one where it's like, dude, are you what?
Are you even aware of what's going on here? Do you have any idea how stupid you look? And he's got like brown snakeskin shoes on all the time and like loud color pants, like red or something, you know.
But of course, it's supposed to be like
it's the polar opposite.
The anti of Jack or whatever you want to call him, Cornelius.
Right. Cornelius or what was the other one that anyway, I don't know. So at the same time, or right before he met Tyler, he also ran across Marla, who is his enemy.
Yeah.
Basically.
Nemesis.
So he goes to all these groups. And he does it for his own therapy, and then she starts showing up, and he's so angry at her because she's a tourist.
Yeah,
and she's not sick. She doesn't have testicular cancer.
Yeah,
right. And so, which is so funny because
she doesn't need the groups like he needs the groups, even though
exactly.
But he is a total hypocrite.
Well, but that's human nature too.
Yeah.
It's like your problems are always bigger.
Yeah.
They're always bigger than the other person's problem. But she is also very flippant. But she also gets a little bit of a buzz out of this because she feels that she could die at any minute and that the tragedy is that she doesn't.
Yeah.
Which I think that's just brilliant. And that is immediately a girl I want to date. I have problems. I'm aware of it, at least.
She's a kooky one.
But anyway.
We're first introduced to her. She walks into
the
testicular cancer support group from men who have lost their testicles, right?
Right. Like Meatloaf is there with bitch tits. Because
they are quite literally mourning the loss of their manhood.
Right.
Right. And she walks in smoking a cigarette and says, "This is cancer, right?"
With her sunglasses on.
Everything about her presence is inappropriate and disruptive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she's like in cancer like groups, like smoking cigarettes. It's like tuberculosis. The smoking doesn't go over.
No, but then when they're split in groups, she argues that she has more of a right to be at the testicular cancer one than he does because he has his balls and she doesn't have them. Yeah, it's fucking hilarious.
But so there's these two kind of forces that are like representing a couple of different like breaks in his life, and he becomes friends with Tyler, and they start just fighting, just letting out their aggression.
Sure,
I mean,
fighting.
And that leads they end up also living together because Tyler has this broken down house.
Yeah.
That he doesn't that it's unclear whether or not he owns it or just squats at it.
Ed Norton's apartment explodes.
Yes.
And he needs a place to live, so he calls Tyler.
Well, he first calls Marla.
Yeah.
And he doesn't say anything, and she's like, "I can hear you breathing," right before he hangs up.
And then he calls Tyler, and they go out for beers, and then
they fight a little,
and he just starts kind of squatting with Tyler.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And throughout the course of the next several weeks, months, years, whatever it is, they basically create Fight Club, where a lot of people just start joining to basically okay, so here's the deal, right? This is what everybody on the left would say the Proud Boys are. Just guys who just get together and fuck each other up in a very possibly homoerotic way. At least homosocial, I said. And everybody on the right would say this is what Antifa does.
Right.
It's the idea is that these are people who are violently letting out their aggression.
I have a little bit
on each other.
I have a little bit of a different take on the Fight Club members in Project Mayhem. To me, it feels like if incels radicalized. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, kind of.
You know what I mean?
But at the same time, though,
and there's that same kind of misogyny in the Fight Club members that you see with incels. It's like. And there's even the quote.
Well, there's quotes that are set
there's definitely this underlying implication of misogyny. I mean, when Tyler specifically says we're a generation of men raised by women, is another woman what we really need when they're speaking about getting married?
Well, yeah, because there's a moment where they're talking about their being raised, and really, I mean, this is one of those clues that spoilers. They're the same person, but we're just going to break that out.
Who's the same? Meatloaf and Jared Leto are the same people?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
In real life.
In IRL?
In IRL. Indie Racing League. Yeah. So anyway, so like they're talking about like they want to fight. Like they're always asking each other who they'd want to fight.
Yeah.
And, at one point Tyler says, I'd fight my dad. He left. I call him up and he's telling me all the bullshit that he did, basically leading him down the same path of ruin, essentially. Which, I mean, if you think about it, there's, that is a lot of where the angst of Generation X comes from, is this idea that, that's when divorces started to spike. That's when there's this angst of I don't want to do what you did, and there's a general rebellion that comes for adolescence was kind of compounded by various social and various familial things that would come along. When divorces go up, teenage rebellion is also going to be more severe. When various other like for example, latchkey kids or kids that lived in, even if their parents were still together but they were both professionals, that also skyrocketed with the Generation X crowd, particularly the later crowd, us. I mean, so yeah, it's like the rebellion of we all rebelled. Every generation rebels in their teenage years, but we didn't have anything. We didn't know what to do with our rebellion.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
It was a little bit aimless.
it was aimless. Like, again, you know, people in their 18, 19, 20, 21-year-olds could have gone off to World War II, or they would have dodged drafts and fought for no war or something. You know, it's like
Well,
we didn't have that.
Yeah,
we didn't do that.
We ended up channeling it into a bunch of really, really bad new metal, you know? I mean,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
and the grunge scene was that, you know, it was this.
It was wherever we could focus it and put it in a little bottle.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it was pure angst.
yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, I kind of understood that, where it was like, we're not going to follow your same bullshit that you did. For anybody who had any reason to be angry at one of their parents, that would have been the response they would have had. Mm-hmm. Like I kind of felt the same way. It's like I knew where you were going when you wrote a note down. Mm-hmm. It's like I knew where you were going with that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if I necessarily. I mean, like, yes, we would think these people today, 20 years later, would be a group of incels that are they think they can't get laid because they generally have bad asshole ideas. It's like, maybe if you're not an asshole, you'd get laid once in a while, dude. By the way, incel means involuntary celibate.
Yeah.
And they usually blame women for that.
Yeah.
When
the
in
Chads,
fact
the
they're
Chads
just
and,
assholes.
the Chads and Stacy's. Yeah.
The Chads and Stacy's.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they think they're top lobsters. Yeah, I'm not gonna get into that. That just irritates me. But no, I know where you're going with that. And yes, we would think if if a movie was made today based on Fight Club, it would be these little weirdo guys who might go and shoot up a school because a girl wouldn't go to the dance with them or something, you know?
Yeah.
That's very, very general. That's a very big generalization, but you see what I'm saying?
Yes. That's kind of where I kind of went with that, was that they feel to me like they're
entitled.
They're entitled, so they take what they want, and if an incel were to radicalize themselves to violence, I feel like I feel like a lot of incels probably watch Fight Club like as a fantasy.
Exactly. This is very much a male fantasy type of, I mean, just as much as superhero stuff is, because while everybody pictures themselves being the superhero, right? Everybody wants to be Superman or be the smartest guy in the room like Batman. But then you have people who are a little bit weird socially. Mm-hmm. And by a little bit weird, I'm a little bit weird socially. I'm talking about a lot more weird than me. So very weird socially.
But even down to the fact that of Marla, right? Like they
just come and go when she.
But I mean, from the standpoint of sex,
yeah,
right. I mean,
well,
you've got Ed Norton's character who doesn't even know he's sleeping with her, and is so. Maybe he's repulsed by her, but he also feels sort of asexual, right?
Yeah, a little bit.
And he needs this alter ego in order to lay a woman, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's that sexual layer there as well. But anyway.
No, I get what you're saying there too, because it's like whenever she like. You see, the first time she comes over and you think Tyler is screwing Marla, there's 4 used condoms in the toilet. Yeah. He went 4 times
right.
in like a few hours, right?
That's fucking insane. Superhuman is what that is.
That's wish fulfillment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then, you know, like she's buzzing around like a completely different person the next morning, until he's a dick to her, until Ed Norton's unknowingly a dick to her.
Those are my favorite interactions in the movie. Knowing the twist is the interactions between them.
Well, and that's when you see it after you know the twist, then you can see exactly the moment that you realize that she knows that there's a problem too. You can see it.
What I love about that, Helena Bonham Carter is phenomenal in this movie, when you watch the movie, I remember watching the movie the first time and thinking, what a like crazy person, right? And she is a crazy person, but not as crazy as you think, because they set you up with that belief about her that she's pretty bonkers, and she is. She's got a lot of emotional problems, but
she also is the only person who can see through see everything.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But the interactions then that she has with Edward Norton when she's having sex with Tyler make her seem crazier. But then when you know that Tyler is him, and you understand her confusion and you understand her reactions to things.
Yeah.
And you start to think about how she's viewing Ed Norton and how
he's
absolutely batshit he must seem to her.
Yeah.
It's fucking awesome. Like,
right.
I love those interactions. Yeah.
So and like to kind of get back to like, what we were saying, it's like whenever, I mean, she multiple times talks about how just phenomenal he is.
Yeah.
And it's like, this would be every weirdo dude's like fucking fantasy. I mean, it's like God's gift to women in a package that looks like Ed Norton 1999.
Yeah. Right. He's very much the everyman, I guess.
He's less than that, though. I think.
Yeah.
I think he's this little pencil neck geek.
Yeah. He is kind of like chiseled. But I think,
but
that's
I mean,
after like months and months of Fight Club.
Fight Club, right? But like,
there,
but like when you see him in like at work, he's got like mouse shoulders where it's like very sloped. He's very, he's very meek.
Yes.
He is the opposite of Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt is what some of these dudes that we're talking about see themselves,
or want to be.
I think they see themselves that way, and then they start talking to somebody, and then they get mad because people aren't seeing them. People are seeing them for who they really are,
right?
Which is like Danny DeVito. You think you're Brad Pitt, but you're actually a little troll monster. I mean, sorry, Danny, but you're a little troll monster.
Well, that's a good point too, because I think that I don't want to get too far into.
Let's let it out.
I don't want to get too far into this, but there is the sentiment of the participation trophy, right, and the participation trophy generation and all of that.
Yeah,
and that we do all, like Brad Pitt says at one point, we do all think we're going to be great, we're going to aspire, we're going to do great things. Everybody's going to do great things, and not everybody can do great things. Everybody has a place, and a lot of people, me included, our place in this world is fairly insignificant, right?
Yeah.
But it's making peace with that. Where Brad Pitt takes things, where Tyler Durden takes things, is you can do great things as a part of something greater.
Yes.
Right? But it's extremism. It's
right.
It's radicalization.
It's radicalizing.
Right. It's taking that sentiment, and instead of helping you come to terms with your own personal place in the world, using it to control you.
Right. It takes away your individuality.
Right.
It's not about what you feel satisfied with. Yes, that's basically the thesis of this movie, is that yes, you may live a humdrum life, but you got to find what makes you satisfied.
Right.
Because if you seek too long and too hard, or you can't find what makes you satisfied, some bad things might end up happening or coming to you, or you become radicalized in some ways.
That's why it always makes me laugh that the term snowflake came from this movie, and that
really
yes, and that right wing trolls use that to toss at liberals, like some sort
when
of
they're
insult.
they're the most fragile people in the fucking
world.
But
they have no understanding of the meaning of that term in the sense of the movie. In the sense of the movie, Brad Pitt uses that to turn. Tyler Durden uses that to turn the people who have these feelings of worthlessness in their lives, to essentially convert them to a fascism,
and a
to make them followers of him as a fascist.
But also elevate them by making them follower. You can become special if you went this direction.
But you must strip all sense of individualism from you, and the right winger individualism is everything, right? But yet they toss around the term snowflake, and they have no fucking clue what they even mean. It's like, yeah.
Right, they think of it as a fragile thing when yeah.
Yeah, right. They think of it as a fragile thing, like, oh, you're
the moment it hits something,
it
disappears.
Yeah. It's
pretty hilarious.
It's really hilarious.
The moment anybody tosses around any of those anagrams or I mean, in both ways, right? Like both ways. It's like, dude, you are lowering yourself, or you are trying to do something. No, this is not how you win anything. That's not how you do anything. It's not how you do things, people.
Do things better.
Do things better. Make better soap.
Oh God, that scene where they steal the fat.
The fat from people, yeah.
But that's the thing that's all right. So along with that, they go to steal the body fat from the liposuction company.
So Tyler Durden has several purposes or several jobs.
Yeah.
His main one. Well, okay. So in one, he's a server at a prestigious dinner hall. Mm-hmm. Another one, he's a film projectionist where he likes to cut in 1 or 2 frames of porn into children's movies. And then the other is he makes soap. So how does he make the soap?
So he steals body fat, human fat waste from a liposuction company. So
because supposedly the best way to make soap is a certain salt content within the glycerin that is formed from the fat.
You mix it with lye and you can make soap.
So supposedly the right balance of salt comes from humans.
Yeah. So so there's a scene where they're stealing the fat, and it's in these big like plastic bags, the clear plastic bags, the biohazard bags, and it gets caught on the
barbed
wire, and it just it's so gross. It
it spills out. It's all chunky and red and pink and But then he's like rendering it.
Yeah.
Which that would just smell terrible.
Oh yeah. Cooking human fat in a But what is interesting? There are things about Fight Club that in its philosophy that I really like. I love the irony of that when he says that we're selling their own fat asses back to them.
Yeah, because he ends up selling each bar of soap for $20 each.
Yeah.
Back to like basically a Macy's or a high-end store.
And he says, who knows how much they sell it for.
Right.
Yeah. And so it's beautiful. We're selling their own fat asses back to them. So I like that sort of dig at the bourgeoisie, the elites,
Right.
That's sort of that's not even necessarily what I would call mischievous. It's just clever.
That's clever. Yeah. The only thing wrong about that is they're stealing something that's not meant to be possessed.
Right. There's probably some laws they're breaking in the content of the soap itself. Maybe.
Yeah. First and foremost, stealing.
Yes.
Theft.
Yes.
But there's a reason why I'm assuming that you go buy a bar of Dial. It's not human fat. It's
probably vegetable fats maybe or something.
It's probably vegetable oil. Yeah, it's there would be some. I think there could be some way you could say that's akin to cannibalism in some ways, because
I guess if your mom washes your mouth out with soap.
Well, no, I'm just fuck that. No, I'm just saying
she wouldn't use the $20 bar of soap on that.
No, not my family. No way, man.
My mom, this is fucking sick, but my mom, she made me use liquid soap and like gargle with it.
Oh God,
fucking disgusting. Yeah.
That's gross, man. Mm-hmm. So no, what I'm saying is it's like there would be some tie, I would say. Somebody would try to tie it to cannibalism in some way, shape, or form, because there's nothing that I've ever...
The soap is tasty.
No, I'm just saying this, like, think of anything that you do or buy except for an organ transplant. with the express consent from another person. There's nothing that we possess, own, or buy that comes from our own from another human being.
Other than my skin suit, apparently.
Wow, that's you, man. I mean, that's you.
My skin suit jacket.
Yeah, dude, that's some gross stuff, man. I went with you that one time to get materials. I ain't doing it again.
Hey, Jeff, we're going to make a skin suit today.
And the fact that you do it in your birthday suit is really weird.
Oh, well, that's the best way to wear it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yikes. So, but no, I'm just saying it's like, it's like we don't, nobody is selling human sweat salt.
Right.
For your food.
Right.
There's, sea salt chips.
The only
but
thing,
that's it.
The only thing I can think of would be wigs.
But that's express consent that you're selling your hair for that.
Yeah, but I think that's the only thing I can think of that we buy.
Right. That's specifically.
That's a human body thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that in itself is a law for that soap.
I guess there's breast milk too.
Well, but again, it's express, it's consent fully given to somebody.
It's sperm donors.
Again, all of that is.
I know. I know.
Yes. I don't know if the mics picked that up. Jason just farted for the 47th time today. Anyway, yeah. I mean, like, can you see any possible way that this movie could ever be made again?
I think so. I do. Not this exact movie, but I think movies with this theme, yeah, I do. I think we're probably prime for another one of these movies.
Man, I don't know. It seems like it would be. I feel like, again, you brought up the whole thing with the snowflake comment, right? Where one side sees that as an insult, but another side sees it as you don't know what you're talking about.
I'm not saying that it wouldn't be a controversial movie, but I could see it being made.
Yeah, I mean, there's two problems in this, right? One is the idea of blowing up buildings,
sure,
and having them topple very similarly to what people saw on 9/11. Now, I'm a person who says, that was also 18 years ago. It's time to move on a little bit.
Yeah.
But and I hate when people utilize that event for their game.
Yeah.
It's like, ain't nobody selling bumper stickers that talk about always remember, never forget, or whatever, that's given that to any fucking widows that came about from that day. Ain't none of that shit happening. They're profiting off of it. They're profiting off of death. I have a major problem with that. But what I'm saying is that there's that, which then there's the idea of domestic terrorism, which is a bit of a problem right now.
Yep.
It's nice that people think they can point fingers at someplace else, but it doesn't change the fact that a white guy walks into a black church and guns down the place. It could give bad people bad ideas that we weren't aware that we would be even giving them 20 years ago, but would be very aware that we could be giving some people that now.
You haven't seen the show Mr. Robot, have you?
Mm-mm.
That is basically Fight Club, without the fighting. It's
club.
Yeah, it's just club. It's more like Hacker Club.
Oh God, we're not ever watching Hackers. Stop.
Oh, I love Hackers. I love Hackers.
We're not ever watching it.
But I mean, that show is in a lot of ways very much Fight Club, but I think probably without a little bit of that thematic angst, right? Of rebellion. it is missing that a little bit. It's more kind of like a revenge motivation,
Okay.
and also like a corporate maneuvering type of thing. But you have a character who sees another person, right? Who I don't know if you'll ever see it, but Rami Malek is the main character, and he sees his dad.
Okay.
He interacts with his dad,
Like Dexter.
kind of. But his dad isn't real. His dad is in his head.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and he doesn't realize that. And his dad, that persona who is Mr. Robot, takes over just like in Fight Club. So so he's putting things in place, mechanisms in place, corporate terrorism essentially that Rami Malek is trying to stop. So he's sort of fighting against himself to stop these plans from going forward.
Gotcha.
And there are people that he interacts with who know him as one person and not the other. And yeah, it is a very, very Fight Club-esque, and it's it's an ongoing television show right now.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And pretty popular.
So I've heard.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things also about this movie. It's fascinating because you helped me figure something out that I don't know if I've always thought this or I needed it or it came up at that moment where it's like, hey, wait a minute. Where, it's like the idea that Ed Norton and Brad Pitt are known to people in different ways.
Yes.
And that, like the Meatloaf. We got to talk about Bob in a minute.
Bob.
But Meatloaf sees Ed Norton. Of course, he knows him from the testicular cancer.
And he knows
group.
him as Cornelius.
Knows him as Cornelius.
Yeah.
But then, then I'm like, but wait a minute. How does he know? Like he's like, well, do you know anything about Tyler Durden? And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. It's like, then they're fighting against one another, and some people obviously know that Ed Norton's Tyler Durden. Mm-hmm. Then how did that? And it's like, well, it's all part of Tyler's overarching. You never talk about me outside of the purpose that we are communicating.
Right. That's the whole. There should
the rules
be,
of Fight Club.
There should be a rule. Don't call me by my name, right? Because that's probably how this illusion is able to keep itself going, because nobody outright calls him Tyler. It's not until somebody calls him Tyler and tells him he is Tyler that he realizes that he's Tyler. Right?
Which doesn't come until 2 hours and 10 minutes into a 2 hours.
Which to me is one of the problems with the movie, is that really, I mean, Marlon never calls him Tyler,
True,
but you just kind of have to go with it. I think they write it well enough.
It's clever enough,
yeah.
To where, like, yes, when you think back on it, of course, you can play fun police and spot the areas. Like, why wouldn't she just say, "All right, Tyler, I'm done with your shit,"
right?
Or whatever. That's my best Helena Bonham Carter impersonation, by the way. But like, yeah. So I mean, like, there you could call those types of things to attention. But ultimately, it's, it's, but no, it is somewhat clever that any moment where somebody could say his name, it almost like the scene's over. Like, scenes don't last long in this movie. No. The longest scenes are with Ed Norton and himself, Tyler Durden.
Yeah.
Those are the longest scenes.
Well, yeah. I mean, and that's... part of that, I think, too, is because the last sort of individual is Jack or Cornelius or narrator or whatever you want to call him. Yeah. He's the last, I guess, male individual in the movie. So, and he's obviously our narrator anyway. So it's about him, and he's talking to Tyler, and that's the heart of the movie. Right, is him struggling with his own, I guess, super ego.
Yeah, that's probably what Tyler Durden would be.
Or no, I guess Tyler Durden. No, I think Ed Norton is the super ego, and I guess that Tyler Durden would be the id.
Yeah, id, super ego, and then Tyler Durden acts on the ego. Yeah,
but
the super ego is Ed Norton's character. Yeah.
Yes, right. Yes, correct. Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about Meatloaf.
Bob has bitch tits.
Yes, Bob has bitch tits. That's one of the first lines of the movie. Very early.
This was one of Meatloaf's first movies, right?
No, he was in Black Dog before that.
Oh, yeah, that's kind of a fun movie.
No, and also he's Eddie.
Oh, well, shit. He was in
20 years before
Yeah, he was
that.
in fucking Rocky Horror.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right. Duh.
But he was mostly not an actor, obviously.
Right.
But he was always very theatrical with his music videos and his music stage performance and presence and everything. So he probably was an actor who could sing, who could take on this Meatloaf
He's great.
persona.
He's
But
great
anyway,
in Fight Club.
he should have been nominated for an Oscar for this.
I think so too. I mean, he is. God, he's just so puppy dog.
Yes. Well, first of all, okay. So why does Bob have bitch tits? So Bob has had both. He was
He's a testicular cancer survivor.
but he was a steroid user because
Right.
he was a big time weightlifter.
Yeah.
And when his testicles were removed, of course, you have to take hormones.
Mm-hmm.
And when the truth is that guys produce a lot of estrogen.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the counterbalance to their testosterone. And when your testosterone goes up, your estrogen goes up, and it caused Bob to grow boobs,
Yep.
which the narrator refers to as bitch tits.
It's also, interestingly enough, IPAs have more estrogen in them. IPA beers have more estrogen in them than most other beers. So people.
I'd believe that with
Yeah.
some of the dudes that drink
right,
IPAs.
Right. So that's you could give yourself bitch tits by drinking a lot too much IPA. Yeah.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
I can believe some metrosexual douches out there wanting just down in those. They were Tyler Durden's before, but now they're Bob's.
Yeah, but in addition to bitch tits, you'll get a big old belly too.
Well, Meatloaf's got a big old belly.
He does.
You don't earn the name Meatloaf by not having a big old belly.
So true.
But anyway, he is. He just is looking for some place to belong, someplace he can feel again. You know, he joins Fight Club. You know, which I think he says that basically, I think he still goes to the meetings every week, right?
Yeah.
But he goes on Tuesdays and Thursdays to Fight Club.
Yes.
He's 2 times a week.
He's 2 times a week.
Which, as it turns out, I mean, Ed Norton's a 7 days a week. But anyway.
But is he? Because that's the other question. Well, Ed Norton says he
Well,
goes
that's
on
true.
Saturdays. He must not go on Tuesdays and Thursdays because
otherwise
Bob would have.
Yeah.
Tyler Durden doesn't go on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I should say, because he would have seen Ed Norton. So there's some of the things.
Well,
like,
but then it seems like they ramp up the times he goes after he sees Bob.
Sure.
Because it smash cuts to Bob kicking his ass.
But if you really want to be a shitty movie watcher, you can like pull threads at this movie all day, and it's
Yeah.
But
nobody
nobody wants to do that.
Nobody got time for that.
No.
But so anyway, so yeah, and it's like he's just this guy who wants to fit in. Later on, Tyler starts building an army for Project Mayhem. And the rules are: you come to the shit house, you knock on the door, you stand there, and they look you over and they insult you, and they go back in, and you're supposed to stand there for 3 days.
3 days.
No food, no rest, nothing. You stand there, and after the 3 days, you go in, and Bob's the second guy to show up, and Tyler comes out and rips him. He's like, "You're too old, fat ass," and also, or "You're too old, fat man." Also, your tits are too big. So he hits all 3 things that Bob could be ripped for. And so Bob just kind of, dejected, picks up his stuff and starts to leave. And like, Ed Norton's like, Bob, no, come back.
Come back.
He's got to tell you the rules.
Right.
But he's like so gung ho, like he just belongs someplace, and it's just, but sadly, he is the one member of Project Mayhem
who gets killed. Yeah. Which carries the sufficient amount of emotional weight.
It does, and it also, I believe, is what snaps Ed Norton into reality.
Absolutely, it does.
Because right after
he
that,
starts to take control back of his psyche.
Right, and he starts going through plane receipts, ticket receipts, and stuff that Tyler had used to go start up these other fight clubs across the country. It is funny also how easy it was for you to gain like this kind of cult status with the fight club. It's like, that's the thing, man. It's like people just want to fit in someplace. And it's real easy to pull them into something that's really not a good idea.
Right.
We're seeing it today, right? I mean, like, and on both sides too. I mean, like you're seeing people who will have no problem joining on the bandwagon of publicly shaming somebody for some out of context bullshit, that's like whatever, like Chris Hardwick or Aziz Ansari getting blamed for shit that's, you don't know the whole story,
right?
Well, then you've got the other side where it's like, well, aren't you tired that other people who don't look like you are taking your job? They're not taking jobs, dude. It's like, come on. You don't want to work at you don't want to be the fry cook at McDonald's. They ain't taking your job. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
And so it's real easy to pull people in when they feel like that something's wrong with their life.
Well, they feel like they're being
marginalized.
Well, it's not even necessarily marginalized. It's being wronged is not the word I'm looking for, but something has been being taken away from them.
Oh yeah. Like,
something
when somebody talks of race or gender equality, immediately there's a group of people. It's like, well, no, we can't, because they feel like it's a personal attack on what their shit is, and it's like, ain't nobody taking that on my shit. Nobody wants my shit.
But yet those would be the first people to cry about socialism, right?
Yep.
So,
yeah, but
I'm eye rolling right now, people.
No, they could hear that.
they could hear my eye roll.
Yeah, it's yeah. No, I don't know. I mean, but it's like, it's real easy to start a movement when you find the right people who feel like they're marginalized or something's been taken from them or they are oppressed.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people often are repressed.
It's this faux oppression. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's repression is often confused for oppression, and that needs to be.
It's like the fundamental Christians use this all the time. They're so persecuted. There's persecution complex. Yeah.
Yep.
Ugh. God, it's fucking.
It's old, guys.
Insufferable.
Yeah, it's old. Get over it. We're all on this planet together.
All right.
Anyway, there seems like there was one other thing that I wanted to talk about. Talked about Bob. Talked about Jared Leto.
Jared Leto in his blonde eyebrows.
Oh my God, he gets
and then he turns into Quasimodo.
Yeah, he turns. Ed Norton turns his face into hamburger.
I always think about that scene too, and I always think about it when I see Jared Leto in anything. I think of him in that scene and Edward Norton specifically saying, I felt like destroying something beautiful.
Yeah.
I know, it's fucking like buried in my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things, and this is probably the last note that I have on this. One of the things I think of in this is that Tyler Durden really is just the Joker.
Yes.
And he's got henchmen, right?
Yes.
It's like you see a Batman TV show, or you see like the Heath Ledger version where he's an agent of chaos, and it's like, I will set the world right by setting it off its axis. Basically just fucking with people until they have to realize that only the important shit matters, right? Like none of your IKEA bullshit matters.
Right.
None of your, whatever.
That's one of the things that's so interesting about this movie is that it starts off with a premise and a theme that I think most people can agree with. It's like it's sort of anti-materialism, anti-consumerism.
Yes.
Like you should not identify your identity should not be based on the things you own
and the clothes you wear.
Like and that I think is something we always struggle with as humans, the materialism, right?
Yep.
And that's sort of where this movie sort of says, yeah, I agree with that. And it's easy, I think, to get people on board with a message like that.
But there's always going to be a line in that sort of stuff.
But then you start upping the ante slowly but surely, and that's what this movie's great. Like,
well,
it's just little pranks at first.
Yes. Well, and the thing is also, it's like I should not be focused on the clothes that I'm wearing. The clothes that I'm wearing is not the person who I am. Now I can help advertise the person I am by wearing a comic book shirt or whatever, right? And
that's more of an expression of yourself, though.
That's an extension of yourself at the very least.
Right.
But the price that I pay for a pair of jeans does not make me a better person.
Label,
right.
Yeah, whatever, yeah.
But what I can't do is say, Jason, you can't wear Levi's because I don't, and take that away from you. Right. And that's where the line gets drawn here, right? Yes. Like, okay, yes, everybody should be careful about the amount of money that they spend or the capitalism that they partake in. But it's not cool to blow up all the credit card companies so that everybody goes back to zero.
And Levi's are fucking comfortable.
Well, if everybody went back to zero in their credit, you can buy all the fucking Levi's
for everyone.
Yeah. But no, but that's the thing. That's where the line gets. Like, everybody wants to go on a crusade, but where it becomes a problem is where they say you are the problem now. Yes. You've gone beyond what you control for yourself and try to control somebody else's. It's perfectly fine if you say, I don't like movies that feature X, Y, and Z. I don't want to watch those. It's wrong to say you can't watch that.
Right. Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
And we know some
that's
people
when
like
you
that.
That's when you start to devolve into fascism.
Well, it's not just fascism. You devolve into. It's you just can't control somebody else's taste.
I understand,
and,
but
yes, the grand scale is.
But a person who believes that these are the way things should be,
right,
and the choices that you make should be dictated by them, which is what kind of Tyler Durden starts to do.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
He builds the army by just replicating himself.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately that's fascism. Mm-hmm. So anyway, it's a good movie, man.
It's a good movie.
It's
been a while since I've seen it.
Yeah. Last episode, you said that you were a little concerned about what it was going to build up inside.
I was afraid that I couldn't remember, and I knew I should have trusted the source material. Like, Chuck Palahniuk is on the level.
Yeah.
But I was a little concerned knowing some of the things that have been born out of it, like snowflakes and
I didn't even think about that. I didn't even know that
and all of that. Yeah, so all of that stuff. I was worried that maybe the message of the movie might change for me and would be less potent. But no.
Yeah, it's funny that's another thing also that I think we live in a time now 20 years later where it's easy to build up these little pockets of people who care about something that in the grand scheme of things doesn't mean shit.
Right.
A lot of people bitched about, like, Captain Marvel, for example. About 5% ultimately probably end up not seeing it because of certain comments or certain feelings about stuff.
Yeah.
Still made a fucking $1 billion.
Yeah.
I know people, it's like, oh, did you see what so-and-so said on Twitter? It's like, no, I don't care. Doesn't change. I mean, like, yeah, people have different opinions. I mean, it's but you get enough people who start to care about what other people think.
Yeah,
it becomes problematic.
It's weirdly sweet in a sense. This movie, when Edward Norton has the discussion with Marla, and he's trying to get her to leave. And go camping like Marla camps. Yeah,
yeah, you're right. A girl who comes in with dollar store hand-me-down clothing.
Yeah.
That's wildly out of place. She has one pair of shoes, I think, and she has the biggest bed head.
Oh God, it's
so greasy.
It's like
and
a
so
tangled
hot.
mess.
It's so hot
of amazingly hotness. Yeah.
Oh my God, she is such a wreck that I'm in love with her.
And I love that Edward Norton, without even realizing, not even having a physical relationship with her.
Well, not realizing it.
Not realizing, but I think at that point he does realize he did, but he doesn't have any memory of it, right?
Right. He's just trying to protect somebody that he does actually care about and cared about from the beginning.
And he tells her that he's come to realize that he cares for her and he wants to make sure she'll be safe. And I think that is one of the I think he probably became a real boy that day.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, he realized
He kind of found his humanity.
Yeah,
Because I
it's
think-
bigger than himself.
Because I think perhaps he was a bit of a misanthrope
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, sure.
And a lot self-centered.
Yes.
Although not self-centered in the way that he thought a lot of himself, but he was consumed by his own.
He was consumed by
self.
his own misery.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a problem these days,
Yeah.
where people become so consumed with their own misery that they can't see beyond. They can't see the forest for the trees.
Yeah.
They only see what is blocking them from ultimate happiness or happiness for that moment or whatever. Yeah.
So,
Hey, man, this movie is prescient.
prescient. It is. It is.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yep.
Would you recommend this movie?
No. Yes, of course.
How many bars of soap would you
This
give this? Out of
movie,
5 bars
I'll
of
give
soap?
it 5 bars of soap.
Yeah,
It is.
absolutely.
It is.
It-
It is out. It's a part of the zeitgeist now as well. I mean,
Yes.
This movie is, in lots of ways, good and bad.
In some ways, this is going to be
part of our culture.
Yeah, at some point, and maybe soon, this is going to become a modern day Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It probably already is.
yeah, probably
Yeah. Yeah.
snowflakes.
Fucking social justice warriors.
Libtards.
Libtards.
I tell you right now, if you use any of those words with me in an argument, I immediately back out of that. It's like, so, have a good day, sir.
Have a good day, sir.
You have witnessed it.
Yep.
But no, I mean, and I wouldn't let anybody call. I wouldn't let anybody who call somebody who voted Republican a fascist either.
Well, I agree, and it's in Deplorables is another one.
No,
Like,
that's not cool,
it's
man.
not cool.
It's not cool.
Fucking not cool, and that's the
not- it's-
that is the number one reason why Hillary Clinton, in my opinion, lost that election.
Well, I can think of like 5 other reasons.
Well, there's a lot of
You're
reasons,
right.
but I think that was number
Yeah.
one.
It's you cannot
She proved a point
right
of her opponent that
you're not welcome.
right that there is an elitism.
I dropped off the Bernie Sanders train because of emails that I received.
Feel the burn.
Well, no, it was basically some attitude, but some attitude from the campaign that we don't want you.
Yeah.
I mean that I felt like I was aged out of that group.
Yeah.
That I wasn't cool anymore. Because if I disagreed with one thing, then you get out. Get out.
Right. That's a problem.
That is. But yeah, I mean, so again, we just ripped our own side.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, don't if you got to welcome somebody to the table. You ain't welcoming. I can't call you a neckbeard retard and expect for you to sit down at my table.
Well, I mean, it's the same kind of bigotry.
Exactly.
I mean,
exactly.
It's the bigots are on both sides.
Yeah. Use a derogatory term to try to start a conversation with a African American gentleman. If you don't get punched, you ain't going to be sitting at the same table,
right?
At the very least.
Yep.
So again, it's and this. I ain't going to be sitting at the table when somebody calls me a cracker, probably. So yeah, same idea. And yeah,
Eating cracker.
well, that's funny.
Funny.
I'll talk to Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Chris Rock.
All day.
All day. Anyway, a lot of this stuff's probably getting cut out. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see.
But anyway, be cool to one another.
Yeah,
Don't,
be cool.
Don't go around starting fight clubs when it's really not that necessary right now.
No. Learn to box. That's healthy.
Yeah. Go to a place where you can like bash a bunch of breakable shit.
Oh man, that was my idea. I had that idea with somebody
Yeah, I
in
know.
California in the late 90s, around the fucking time of Fight Club. We called it the Aggression Center.
Yep.
Ugh.
Yep.
I could have been making hundreds of dollars. Hundreds of dollars I could have been making.
Should have patented that shit.
Should have. But I'm glad somebody's doing it. It's a great idea.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Go like pay $200 and destroy a fucking beater car
Yep.
with a baseball bat. Like, ugh, who wouldn't want to do that?
Yeah, exactly, right? All right. So next week, round 3. You're dying to remember.
Yeah, what the hell is it?
So round 3 of our movies that can't really be made anymore. Ms. 45.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
It's a rape revenge movie.
It's Abel Ferrara.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's lots of stuff to talk about. Probably we're going to be talking.
They still kind of make movies like this?
Well, kind of, but
I mean,
not
revenge exploitation, rape exploitation is still a thing. I mean, they remade fucking "I Spit on My Grave" on your grave.
Yeah, but that was before.
They remade House on the Left, Last House on the Left.
Yeah, but I've got more to say about.
They remade the People of the Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah, but there's an more of a authenticated feel to some of the older ones that wouldn't be.
So maybe the realism.
Also, some of those, and also some of those like lengths of scenes. The I don't want to say gratuity, but the
didn't they recently remake Straw Dogs? Somebody.
Yeah, but I mean, like these were remade before the last 3 or 4 years. So that it's a different. We're in a little bit of a different era.
Fuck hell, Revenge was basically that.
Yeah, but also that was not wide released, and it was made by a foreign person.
Fair,
but I'm talking about.
But you're putting qualifiers now on it cannot be made.
I said all 3 of these cannot be made in a wide release way.
Right.
So now, granted, I don't know if any Abel Ferrara movie was ever.
Yeah, I was going to say Ms. 45 wasn't exactly like a box office.
It probably did very well on 42nd Street.
Yeah, but it was a video nasty. I mean, it was banned.
Yeah, in one country, but not here.
But still, it was.
Yeah, I know, but God damn it, I know what I'm doing here.
I'm poking holes at your theory.
Here's the truth.
Just
here's
Fight
the
Club.
truth. Here's the truth. All right, we picked 3 movies, and then I looked at those 3 movies.
No,
I looked at those 3 movies. And it's like, holy shit, these aren't movies that get made anymore. I mean, come on, dude.
Well, I can't really speak for Miss 45 until I see it, so I'll give you the benefit of the doubt until next week. And we'll see. We'll see.
All right, fine,
cool. I like Abel Ferrara.
There's a fascinating story about the lead actress. We'll get to that. It's tragic, but it's fascinating nonetheless. And Abel Ferrara's friendship with her is interesting. So we'll probably mostly be talking about other stuff than the actual movie, because the movie's for 82 minutes pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But there's some iconic shit in it. Absolutely. A little bit of nunsploitation in here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know this.
You know the iconic
is.
shit.
I know
Yeah.
what this movie is.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it. Yeah.
Anyway, go to filmseizure.com every Wednesday morning, new episodes. Every Monday afternoons, new episodes of Monster Mondays.
Yes.
When something's worth to talk about, there's Film Seizure at the movies.
Yep.
And then go to SoundCloud is where we upload stuff to begin with. You can find stuff on iTunes, on Spotify, on Google Play Podcasts. And there's some stuff on TuneIn, but they're a little wonky about updating. But I don't know. We'll figure that out someday maybe. But anyway, plenty of places you can subscribe and get new episodes sent to you immediately. Then Facebook, Grindr, you can find us there. Tinder, we're on there too. It's all equal opportunity around here, man. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we post stuff there. So you can find us places. We're probably more active on Facebook than any place else.
And send your dick pics and cigarette burns to Jeff at filmseizure@gmail.com. Attention, Jeff.
Great. All right. I got plans for Saturday night. It's going to be really awkward because I'm going to be like, so have you seen Avengers yet? No? Oh. It's like, Wow, this leather outfit fit nicely. I'd totally be a bear, you know.
I know you would.
Anyway,
We both would. Who am I
Who
kidding?
are we kidding?
Who the
Yeah.
fuck am I kidding?
Yeah, right. I have a man groomer, like a back razor.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
It's fantastic,
That's-
dude. Yeah. Anyway, anywho, until next week, I am Jeff Arbuckle.
I am Jason Oliver, and you have been listening to Film Seizure.